Hello, this is Justice Jennifer Brunner of the Ohio Supreme Court and candidate for Chief Justice, and I'm here today with Bill Sperlazza on my program, Achieving Justice. Bill is running for the Common Pleas Court in Franklin County, Ohio. Welcome, Bill. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
And what will people see when they see your name on the ballot? How is it going to appear?
It'll be Bill Sperlazza, and that's Sperlazza with two Z's, Sperlazza.
That's great. So that's an interesting name to run with.
Yeah.
You've I thought I didn't really think of Sperlazza, and you came from West Virginia as a kid, right?
Well, my family did, yeah. So my entire family grew up in West Virginia, a little town called Wellsburg, which is right over the river from Steubenville, between Wheeling and Weirton. But I grew up in Youngstown. My father was a really good football player, and he got a scholarship to play football at Youngstown State University. And when he was a senior there at Youngstown State, he got a job that turned into a full-time job at the university, which he ended up making his career. So he met my mother in high school when they were sophomores in high school in Wellsburg, West Virginia. So she came up to Youngstown and they got married. And I was fortunate enough to be born and raised in Youngstown.
Well, Youngstown is a great place. And if anybody doesn't know, the team is called the Penguins.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yes, I am fortunate. Both of my alma maters have the two best mascots in college football: Youngstown State Penguins and Ohio State Buckeyes. Bruce the Buckeye, Pete the Penguin.
yeah, that people from New York have said about Ohio State, wait a minute, you named your team after a nut? But they just don't get it. They just don't get it until they see a game, and then they're like, okay, I get it now. Yeah. So you've got some background with basketball though, right? Because you are pretty tall.
Yeah. So I've spent the majority of my life involved in basketball. Certainly, I played as a young man, and I tried to play at Youngstown State University, but I had a pretty serious knee injury. I tore the ACL in my right knee. And that sort of, at that time, in 1998, that was sort of the type of injury that would put you out for a couple of years. But at that same time, I was thinking about being an attorney, so I decided to go ahead and focus on my academics and, just continue playing basketball. But what also happened there is I had the opportunity to start coaching. And I've coached basketball for about 13 seasons, I want to say. And that's everywhere from third and fourth grade teams all the way to most recently, I was the head girls basketball coach at Thomas Worthington High School. So I've coached boys and school kids, grade school kids, and everything between. That's certainly one of the great passions in my life. And, sort of the way I like to be involved in my community and give back to my community. I never saw myself as the guy that was going to, show up at the truck on Thanksgiving and give out turkeys and then go home, or those types of, public service things that we see. I wanted to be in the trenches with young people, trying to help them develop into young adulthood and have the tools to be able to be successful in life. So I went the coaching route, and I've loved it ever since.
That's great, because I think you've done some coaching at Lyndon McKinley. Did I have that right?
Yeah, my first coaching job in Columbus was at Lyndon McKinley High School. I was the JV girls coach there for a few seasons, and I loved it. One of the great mentors in my life, my first boss, is Richard C. Pfeiffer Jr., Rick Pfeiffer, a longtime city attorney here in Columbus, and he loved the City League basketball, which Lyndon McKinley is part of the Columbus City League, and he loved women's basketball because he had a daughter that played. So he was extremely supportive of me going up to Lyndon and coaching basketball. And the one thing he taught me and he insisted on is he says, Bill, you better take Cleveland Avenue downtown all the way to Lyndon McKinley every day. I don't want you on the freeways. He always taught me that. When you're on the freeways, you're not in the city, you're not in the neighborhoods, you're not seeing what's happening with your constituents, with the people you represent. So it was a great opportunity to be in the community and get to experience firsthand how people are dealing with things and how people are feeling in the Lyndon community. And it was really fun to coach them in basketball. They were great kids, and they wanted structure. They wanted to be coached, and they wanted to be loved. And I was happy to do it.
It's a great high school. In fact, the auditorium is so beautiful. My very first swearing in when I became a common pleas judge, which is what you're running for, back in 2000, I had my swearing in ceremony right there on the stage at Lyndon McKinley High School.
Wow. I didn't know that. That's cool. It is a beautiful school, beautiful gymnasium.
Yeah, and the kids were just great. They were just great. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, so you are running for a seat that's an open seat. Is that correct?
That's correct. So I'm running for a seat that's currently held by Judge Rick Fry, and Judge Fry is aged out. Of course, in Ohio, you cannot run if the term you are seeking, when it starts, you'll be 70 years old. So he's what we call aged out, and it's an open seat. And I'm very fortunate to have the opportunity to run for this race, run for this seat.
Well, you will follow in some very good footsteps. Judge Fry and I actually were in the same pod together, shared the same secretary before I
Mm.
left the bench to run for Secretary of State way back in the early 2000s. So, and I'm sure he'll leave you a docket that is in great shape, and probably give you a few good tips along the way. But in the meantime, how is it campaigning?
It's been great. We had an awesome campaign. I was talking to some friends yesterday, and it's hard to imagine that we started this, the beginning of December, so what is that? We're 7 months in to this campaign. It feels like it's been a week. It really has gone by fast, but it's been a great start to the campaign. We've got tremendous support from friends, family, but certainly folks in the local bar association, the defense bar, folks who work in the courthouses every single day. The support has been more than I could have ever imagined. And certainly the support from, our friends in our organized labor here in Franklin County, and of course the Franklin County Democratic Party. It's been a great ride so far, but I know we've got 4 months ahead of us that are going to be the 4 toughest months of my life, and I'm excited to tackle it.
It's great. So you currently are with, well, kind of give us your work history so we've got a sense.
Yeah, so I work for the Columbus City Attorney's Office, and I've worked for the Columbus City Attorney's Office for 17 years, which is kind of wild to say out loud. But I've done a bunch of different jobs there. So I started in the prosecution division. So the Columbus City Attorney's Office is responsible for prosecuting misdemeanor and traffic offenses in Franklin County Municipal Court. So that's where I practiced for the first 4 years, or excuse me, the first 7 years that I was with the City Attorney's Office. It is a great way to start your career. Every day, 30 to 100 cases that you are in charge of. And, you open up those doors at 9 a.m. and everybody floods in, and it is a whirlwind for 4 or 5 hours of working with defendants, defense attorneys, victims, witnesses, victims assistants, court reporters, bailiffs, judges, you name it. It is an amazing amount of people that make a courtroom go. And to start as a prosecutor, certainly a municipal prosecutor for 7 years, was an awesome way to start your career because you are thrown right in the middle of it. You are trying cases, you are having evidentiary hearings, and you are handling hundreds of cases a year. After that, I moved over to our environmental section. For about 7 or 8 years, I practiced there. What I did there is I practiced exclusively in our environmental court, shutting down some of the worst hotels, bars, drug houses, you name it, in Franklin County in the city of Columbus. That was a very satisfying time in my life where I was able to go into the community, meet with community groups, meet with block watches, meet with police officers at their headquarters before they would go out on their beats, learn what the problems were in the community, go back to my office and find ways to do our best to help those problems and to solve those problems. I was assigned the Northland area, the north side of Columbus, and we had a major hotel problem, some low budget hotels that were becoming the base for drug dealers, prostitutes, pimps, and many crimes of violence. And we were able, through our work in the environmental section, to shut down 8 or 10 of the worst hotels in Franklin County. And I can tell you that we did a study of what the criminal statistics were before we did this project and what the criminal statistics in that area looked like after we had done this project. And we have found that crime had reduced by 52.5% in the areas where we were able to shut down these very, very bad hotels. And that work is some of the basis for how we ended up winning a handful of awards around Franklin County and the state of Ohio for the work we did there. And that was, again, very satisfying because You go to community groups, you go to block watches, and people say, Bill, I see a difference. It's not as dangerous. It's safer. There's less of a criminal element there. Thank you for doing this. But then you also see the numbers that corroborate what the boots on the ground are seeing. So it was a very, very special time in my life. And then
Well,
for the last 3 years, I've worked in our civil litigation division, which is a section where I would say about 85% of my caseload is in the courthouse where I'm running for judge right now in the Court of Common Pleas. And it has been an eye-opening experience, Your Honor, as you know, going from a career of practicing criminal law to getting thrown into the civil arena is just a whole new world, and it's opened my eyes up to what civil litigation really means at its heart in Franklin County and in the Court of Common Pleas. I know it'll serve me well if I'm fortunate enough to get on the bench.
oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, and in my experience too, is that the environmental court really functions more like a common pleas court
Yes.
than it does a municipal court.
Yes, and one of the cool things about that experience is while I was in environmental court, I filed civil cases on behalf of my client, the plaintiff, either the city of Columbus or the state of Ohio. And now in my civil litigation position, I am working solely on defense work. So it is nice not only to have that large amount of civil law experience after starting your career in criminal law, right? To have that big chunk of civil law experience, but to have it split between being a plaintiff's attorney and being a defense attorney has, again, really broadened my scope of understanding what it means for anybody who walks into a courtroom, what it means to them and how it affects their lives.
Absolutely. And, my experience as a common pleas court judge is on those sentencing days, you feel very much like those days you talked about when the courthouse doors open and you're dealing with these people from, whether it's the prosecutors, the probation officers, and then folks from all walks of life as well.
Mhm.
So it seems like you are going in with eyes wide open, knowing what you're getting into.
Yeah, I do. And not just from experience, but also from, having some wonderful people in my life that are on the bench now who are mentors and folks that have shared their experience with me and continue to do so. So with the experience that I've discussed, plus the friendships and mentorships I have with people on the bench up there, it makes me feel really good. And if I have the opportunity to take the bench, I'm going to be able to run the best courtroom I can possibly run.
That's great. So what is your most fun thing about campaigning?
I love being around people. People are my favorite thing in the world. Okay. And, I always say there are some nights, and you know this, Your Honor, there are some nights where you're home with your family, and there's an event at 6 o'clock or whatever it might be. And you're home, you've already got home, you're cooking dinner, whatever you're doing. And you're like, well, I tell you, I don't want to leave the house. I don't want to leave it. I have my family here. I want to stay here. But you get dressed and you go, and it's always fun. It's always a good time. I'm always happy I went because I love the people I get to meet. And I will say this, I didn't really get into politics until maybe 2018. Okay. And, everybody has their opinion of politics and politicians. And I want to say this, I continue to be amazed and blown away by the caliber of people that serve us in Franklin County, our state legislatures, our judges, our council members, our mayors. I think before I started this process, I probably had the same opinion of politicians that a lot of people did, right? But now let me tell you, there are some great people with huge hearts who are doing this for the right reason and could probably be doing something else for more money, but they have decided I'm serving my community, my county, my constituency. And it has been an awesome experience to get to know these great people and to get to be in these arenas with all sorts of wonderful voters and elected officials for these last couple of years. That's by far and away my favorite thing.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Mhm.
I feel the same way about campaigning too. It's a lot of hard work, but it's so rewarding because there are places you'll see and people you'll meet that if you didn't push yourself to do it, you'd never have that
Yeah.
opportunity. And you don't leave that situation unchanged either.
No.
I don't know, it broadens my view and my horizon. So one last question for you. So you have you've got a family, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yes, I live here in Grandview Heights with my wife Abby, who is also an attorney. She works for Nationwide, and we have three children. I have my two stepdaughters, who are Autumn, who is 8 years old and she's going into third grade, and my stepdaughter Nora, who is 6 years old and she's going into first grade. They're at summer camp right now. And then I have my son Willie, who just turned one in June. So he's still a newborn. He's still really fun, and he is so easy to make smile and make laugh. He has such a wonderful personality. He loves people. He loves being held by everybody. And if you're on my Facebook feed from time to time, I'll put some videos of him cracking up and belly laughing at whatever toy we're waving in front of him. So blessed with a wonderful family. Had it a little bit late, but I'm really blessed for the opportunity to have these kids and my wife in my life. And my parents moved from Youngstown. So here's a funny story. I've been in Columbus since 2003. I'm my parents' only child, but they never moved to Youngstown, or they never moved from Youngstown to Columbus to be with me. But as soon as I told them they were going to be grandparents, I think they had their house sold in about 20 minutes, and they were in Columbus. So fortunate to have them in my neighborhood as well, and wonderful in-laws as well. So blessed
oh,
with a great family.
that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Mhm.
Well, Bill, it's been wonderful having the chance to talk with you today, and I'm excited that people are going to get to know more about you in as you run for Common Pleas Court judge here in Franklin County. I wish you the very best. And is there one thing you'd like to wrap up with?
I thank you for the opportunity. I thank everybody for watching this video and taking the opportunity to learn about their candidates and learn about their judicial candidates. There's all sorts of resources that voters can look at to determine who they want to vote for. But this is a fantastic one. And Justice Brunner, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity, and I've had a blast talking with you today. So thank you.
Me too. Thank you so much. Everyone, this has been Achieving Justice. This is Justice Jennifer Brunner of the Ohio Supreme Court interviewing Bill Sperlazza, candidate for Common Pleas Court judge in Franklin County. Thank you all and take care.